This week, we're going to discuss saturation. I'm going to talk about the different types of saturation and how you can use them in your mix creatively. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome to the video on saturation. So if you missed my videos on distortion, I suggest you go check those out. Saturation is very much in the same vein. However, it's a bit different because saturation plays a bit into the analog world. Saturation tries to emulate the old style of consoles, tapes, or tubes. And although distortion and saturation are very different, they're very similar in some respects. I think that the tape saturation, tape distortion is very similar. That's why I included it in both videos. But when using these tape emulation plugins, they're definitely more erring towards the side of saturation, but you can use them and overuse them and create harmonic distortion. So it seemed fitting to include in both. Now let's get into the video on saturation. So the first type of saturation I'm going to talk about is tape saturation. And instead of using the Studer, like the distortion videos, I'm going to use this Waves J37, which is a pretty affordable tape saturation plugin. And you can see here I've got the same tone at 400 Hertz. And if I turn on the tape plugin, we get an odd harmonic overtone. Only one though. And so as you can see, if this has a level match feature right here, and as I turn this up, I'm driving the input. It's also turning the output down because I have this turned on, which is by default. You can see more harmonics are coming into play. And if I play with some of these, it changes the sound a bit. So tape saturation is emulating that really, the tapes. Reel-to-reel machines back in the day, that analog tape sound. And it can be a beautiful thing when used correctly. Let's try to turn up some of the depth here and the rate. Let's see what happens if I turn the rate up all the way and then the depth up. Look at that. So now I've just created a whole new sound out of this. And just to remind you, if you missed my distortion plugins, I'm using a test tone. Sounds like that, 400 Hertz, just so you get an audible, but I'm going to leave it muted because it can get very annoying. And turning that back on, but if you're curious, that's what we did to it. So you could do a lot with these tape plugins. Just be mindful and tasteful. If you want to see what's doing that, it's the rate and the depth. I obviously really mangled the sound. Listen to this. But if I turn it off, I just made a whole new tone by adding all these harmonics. So tape saturation can be cool. With tape saturation, I'd recommend using it on, say, vocals. You can really make a vocal nice and warm. You might use it on, say, guitars or synths. Maybe you put a tad on your whole mix, or definitely maybe your drum bus or buses of instruments. It can definitely give you a little bit more sense of filling in the space because of the harmonics that are added. It can also tame and soften some of the transients and almost act like a glue compressor in that regard. So definitely play with tape saturation. I'm sure there's some free ones on the market, but it is one of the most commonly used types of saturation. Okay, the next type of saturation is transistor based. And I pulled up this Neve 1073 because this is a transistor based console emulation. And you can see here you've got the mic gain or the trim, and you have some EQ here. But really what I just want to show you is just this right here. This transistor saturation is adding all these harmonics. And notice this is even harmonics. This is 800 Hertz. And, it's just going up. There's 1600 right there. This one might be odd, but I'm driving it pretty hard. And if you want to hear the difference, let's turn on the tone. Sorry, that might be a little loud. Let's turn that down. And that's the tone before, that's after. And you see that one little switch. That's why it's getting so much louder, because we're adding all those extra harmonics and we're driving it through those transistors. And so transistor saturation can be considered real gritty, fuzzy. It was a lot different. Tape saturation is very warm and And they're just a little different. So if you're looking to add some buzz or character to your sound, you might go for a transistor-based saturation. Okay, here's another type of saturation for you. This is called tube, and this is a good plugin of mine called the Black Box, and this is emulating a piece of hardware. I love this thing. It's a great saturator. And tube saturation will introduce even order harmonics. So let's give it let's turn it on and see what happens here. Obviously, I'm at 400 hertz. Here's 800. Here's 1.7. That doesn't look like an even ordered harmonic to me, but let's drive this thing. So I just turned it. So see, when it's not even in, it's already adding something. Now turning it on, now we're getting, this one's lower. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit more, I guess you could say even, maybe not so much. Let's drive the saturation up. Yeah, I mean, tube saturation is supposed to provide even ordered harmonics, they say, but you never know. This thing could be doing more than just straight tube saturation. And if I turn up the pentode, you're going to start seeing there's the even ordered harmonics right there. So adding in the triode or the alt tube is going to give you a lot more than the standard. But if you're curious to learn about the BrainWorks Black Box emulation plugin, drop me a comment below and I'll make a whole video. I do love this saturation box. It's great. I know that it's really designed to be used with the hardware. I believe you're supposed to kind of dial in the pentode and the triode at the same time. One thing about this unit though is it does provide a lot of extra output, so you really have to turn it way down. Let's go ahead and just give you that tone. I'm gonna turn this thing down so it's not so loud. And let's turn off the alt tube. Let's drive the saturation, drive the pentode. I'm gonna turn the output down, drive the triode. It's getting it's hurting your ear a little bit, huh? This also has air, and as you can see, the air is adding that a little extra up there. And then if I turn it off, or just turn the whole thing off, really altered that sound right there. They say tube saturation can be very warm and musical and can also add punch to your mixes, so you really need to play around with it. This also has a mix knob, so if you just wanted to add a little bit and run it in parallel, you can. But there's lots of different tube style saturations out there. You can check out the FabFilter Saturn, which is a bit of a saturation and distortion plugin. Another great freebie, if you're looking for a free plugin, is the Softube. Is a great little saturator right here called the Saturation Knob. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the black box. Let's check this thing out. And it's just a one knob plugin with 3 switches. And all it really does is saturation, and it looks like it's all even ordered harmonics essentially. 8, 16, 12, it's about 1200 or 16 right there. Yes, that's probably pretty even, maybe. And then if you went high, you can keep it high, neutral, low, so it kind of just gives it some type of, EQ curve essentially, but it's designed to be focused on what type of sound. Keep high, neutral, keep low. So it's going to give you a darker sound, a neutral sound, and a more high-pitched or higher frequency-based sound. So I'm not sure exactly what type of saturation the Softube one knob saturation plugin is offhand, but they do have some presets here. And, this is a freebie, so go and get this one from Softube. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to talk about a plugin that's very common called Decapitator. I'm not going to go too in depth with this, but this one is a saturation plugin with some basic styles. And then you also have a tone knob. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And there's also this punish knob. So when you turn the punish knob on, you can see that it just gets crazy. Let's run the drives. You see the punish. And, you could try these different styles. So they're switching between different saturation types here. And you could see that they're changing between like maybe even ordered and odd ordered harmonics. And you can also adjust the tone, similar to how the Isotope one knob plugin was, but you get a little bit more control. And you can also adjust, the low cut or the high cut here, so you can kind of shape the sound, which is great. And then you get a mix knob so you can run it in parallel. This is not a Decapitator video. If you want a full video on Soundtoys Decapitator, drop me a comment down below and I will get a video made for you if you're curious. But, saturation, it's one of the keys to mixing. It can really add elements to your mix that can just enhance, give you warmth and color. You can use saturation on basically any track, bus. If you do use it on your master, I'd say you be very careful. You just got to experiment. So I hope you enjoyed this video and good luck with saturation. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and the bell notification will keep you up to date. My name is Freddie from Distinct Mastering, and if you have any questions about this video, shoot me a comment down below. And if you need help with your mastering, I offer all first-time clients one free stereo mastered sample. Just check the link down below. And thank you for watching. Have a good day.